story begins on the edge of a lonely desert in Arizona. For it was there the brilliant scientist Professor Franz Muller chose to live and work in a great fantastic place he called the castle.
Now, Mrs. Fame, you know what always happens when a professor runs into Phoenix for an hour. Did you have an interesting day, Professor?
Quite, Mr. Curry. Thank you, Mrs. Fame. Why the evening close?
Haven't you heard? It's to be a very formal party.
Party?
Yes, Mrs. Craven's dinner dance at the Arizona Palms.
And you accept it?
Of course we accept it. But you're the one who refused, Professor Muller.
My dear Janice, you ought to know by now how I love society. No, those things are not for me. Besides, I have some work to do.
What have you there? Oh, Patrick, look. It's a monkey. It's sick.
TB.
Where did you find it?
Bought it from an organ-grinder.
Think we can save him?
Won't live through the night.
Then why did you buy him? Oh.
Yes, Janice, another experiment. And I'll need some help.
So you won't give up, huh?
Give up? Not until I have proven that the animal and human brain can be kept alive even after death. I shall try and try again until I succeed, or shall die in the attempt.
But you already know you can keep the brain alive.
I merely think I do. I've never succeeded yet. And if I could prove that, what do I know about the brain itself? Nothing. Can it think? Remember after its body is dead? Could it be made to feel? To hear, perhaps? Or to express itself in some way? To contact the living?
And if you did find out, what would be the benefit?
You ask me that? Would it not be the achievement of all times to keep the brain of great thinkers, scientists, inventors, authors, statesmen alive? To derive benefit from their wisdom and their thinking power, even after their death? To make them literally immortal? You, of all people, should understand my determination. Just being an authority on the encephalograph wasn't enough for you. You wanted a chance to actually work with it, to prove that it could be practical.
Could be. It is practical.
You see? Your very belief in that shows how determined you are. Although I wasn't very encouraging the first time you wrote to me.
The first time? The first 20 times I wrote you.
I thought you might need me, Professor.
No experiment could possibly be successful without my 2 loyal assistants, provided that your interest in science still comes before dinner parties.
What can I do to assist?
I need all necessary instruments for trepanation.
Yes, Professor.
Get the blood pump ready and the tube connections for the arteries. We'll use the animal's own blood and add hemoglobin and acacia. And get the encephalograph ready for connection.
Yes.
And don't forget the giggly saw.
The giggly saw?
It was Professor Muller's contention that every living brain has an electric beat, which can be measured with an encephalograph or electric amplifier. A pump supplies blood to the main arteries in order to keep the tissues alive. As long as the brain functions, the pen records its beat and at the same time computes its strength.
Well, you can see from these alpha and beta waves beyond any doubt that the monkey's brain is still alive and awake. What's this?
The waves have stopped.
He died.
Must remember the monkey we had was sick. Perhaps if we had an animal that was in perfect health, we might be able to...
Perhaps. In any case, I've kept the monkey's brain alive for 1 hour and a half after the animal's death. That is a tremendous step forward in my experiment. And what I did with the simian's brain, I could do with the brain of a human being, if I had one.
Well, you don't give up either, do you?
Not when it's been months since I was invited to a party.
Well, you should be where they send invitations every night. You get them, too. You know, you don't belong here.
Why not? Professor Muller says I have the makings of a very good scientist. I know you don't approve of my ambition.
Oh, but on the contrary, I do. Not too much.
I'll need it. This gown reeks of chloroform, and I don't want to put my dancing partners to sleep.
Don't you worry. Besides, you'll only have one. He's wide awake. I'll get the car.
Yes, we are going to the party, in spite of you.
In spite of me?
It was clever of you to arrange that emergency experiment. But your timing could have been much better.
My dear Janice, you seem to misunderstand my interest in your welfare.
Do I?
I only watch over you the way your father would if he were still alive.
When Father didn't approve of a young man, he said so. He never tried to be subtle.
Now you are being unfair. And if I was subtle, it was only because I know very little about Mr. Curry's background. And when you make a choice, Janice, I want it to be the right choice. I want you to be happy.
Professor Muller, shall I serve dinner now?
No, thank you. Send me a sandwich to the lab.
Separados
hope you don't mind, Janice.
No, but...
You know, every time I want to talk to you alone, there's always so many people around.
Yes, I know. Especially at the castle.
Well, the castle's a very strange place. What with our work and all.
And Professor Muller.
No. The lady in black. Tell me, Janice, how does Mrs. Fame manage to be in so many rooms at the same time?
Why blame her? Professor Muller is the one who told you to stay away from me. Well, didn't he?
Well, he did imply that when your father died in Czechoslovakia that you were left to his care.
He makes his interest sound so paternal, doesn't he?
Telephone, Mr. Corey. Professor Muller. Put Mr. Corey's call on this extension, please.
Hello?
Hello, Corey. I'm sorry to disturb you.
Never mind about that. What's the matter? What's happened?
A plane crashed a few minutes ago near the Rangers station. There's only one man on duty, and he couldn't locate Dr. Martin, so he called me. I was going to start immediately, but there's something wrong with the starter of my car. As long as you have the station wagon, I thought you would be glad to help out.
I'll leave right away. Goodbye.
Oh, it's you, Corey. Quick. You better stay here, miss. Only 2 men in there. I think one's still alive. I brought a stretcher along.
Get it! About that, just keep trying to get Dr. Martin.
What'll I tell him?
Tell him there's a chance to save this man's life. We'll be at the castle.
All right.
That was White on the phone. He said that Dr. Martin got your message. It's on its way over.
His pulse is down to 38, slowing down with every second.
Dr. Martin is here.
Hello, Dr. Martin.
Professor. My goodness, what a night. But it's always this way. Whenever we have a storm, I can depend on at least 3 calls. Tonight I have 4. There's still Mrs. Baxter up the road with a broken leg. Quite a place you have here, Professor Miller. Looks like you have everything I'll need in case we have to have an emergency. I should have said everything I would have needed.
I tried everything I could think of. Ergotine, adrenaline, no reaction.
I'll make all the necessary arrangements. Is there a telephone?
Yes, there's one before you.
I wonder if you'd mind getting my office. The night number is Desert 525.
Yes, sir.
I suppose they'll have another case for me. It's Mrs. Baxter with a broken leg.
Is there anything else we can do, Doctor?
It would be a great help, Professor, if you'd fill out this death certificate.
All right, Doctor.
And bring it to my office in the morning.
Gladly.
Thank you, Professor. Good night.
Good night, Dr. Martin.
do the best you can. Take them a little while to get here.
We'll wait up for him, Doctor.
Good night, sir.
Good night.
His brain is still alive.
That's impossible.
Look for yourself. Look at the waves. Look at the bulb.
Those reactions. It is alive.
A perfect specimen at the perfect opportunity.
What?
Why not? Haven't I been waiting for a human brain to prove my theory? Haven't you been waiting for a chance to prove the possibility of the encephalograph? Or did you intend it to be a parlor game, huh?
Are you mad? Why, that would be criminal.
My dear Curry, I'm not suggesting murder. Man is already dead. Dr. Martin declared him dead. But it's still time for us to make the experiment. So sterilize the instruments.
Sterilize? What for? The man is dead.
I said sterilize the instruments.
I thought Dr. Martin might need me.
I want some instruments sterilized, please.
Where is Dr. Martin?
He's not here. He's gone. Professor Muller is going to do a little surgery. Forceps, small, medium, and large. 2 scalpels. 3 hemostats. Giggly saw.
Is it a head injury?
I said giggly saw.
Is he alive? Patrick, you didn't answer my question.
No, Janice. He's not alive.
When you try to solve the mysteries of nature, it doesn't matter whether you experiment with guinea pigs or human beings. Instruments. Instruments! What time is it, Corey?
3:30.
Janice, tell Mrs. Fame to make some strong black coffee, will you please?
Well?
They would like some strong black coffee.
Oh, that reminds me. Fill this out, Corey, will you?
Death certificate?
Oh, yes. Dr. Martin left it.
Who's going to sign it?
Dr. Martin, of course. All you gotta do is fill it out. Injuries, abdominal, thorax, and basal skull fracture. Cause of death, internal hemorrhage.
Don't you realize what you did is against the law? It's illegal.
Don't you realize it's what we did?
Who was this man?
Let's see. Donovan.
Initials?
William H.
William H. Donovan. So you think it's just a matter of getting Dr. Martin to sign a death certificate, do you? No, it can never be that simple, not now. Because you, my dear Professor Muller, beg pardon, we, have just stolen the most illustrious brain in the entire country. The brain of William H. Donovan.
My goodness, I can't believe it yet. I never thought I'd live to see the day when I declared the great W.H. Donovan dead.
Yes, you're quite a celebrity, Dr. Martin.
I don't like it a bit. Newspaper reporters calling all morning, people asking questions.
Well, Doctor, I know you're a busy man, and as there's nothing else we can do...
No, there's something else. Mr. Donovan's wife and his attorney are in the waiting room. They'd like to ask you a few questions.
Of course.
Another reporter, I'll bet you. Excuse me. Hello?
I'm Professor Muller. This is my assistant, Mr. Corey.
How do you do? Well, I'm Eugene Fulton, Mr. Donovan's attorney. This is Mrs. Donovan, gentlemen.
How do you do?
How do you do, Miss Donovan?
I understand from Dr. Martin that it was you who braved that storm to bring Mr. Donovan from the plane.
Yes.
I want to thank you, both of you, for everything you did for my husband.
I regret we were unable to do more.
Well, apparently there was nothing more that could be done. And we've received Mr. Donovan's wallet and his personal possessions. Since you were the last persons to see him alive, we wanted to know if...
Yes.
Did Mr. Donovan say anything before he died? I mean, did he leave a final message?
He was in complete coma when we found him. And he never for 1 second regained consciousness. Is there anything else we can do?
No, thank you.
Mr. Corey.
Yes?
Just one little point I'd like to clear up, if you don't mind.
Yes, of course.
The death certificate states that Mr. Donovan died of internal hemorrhage.
That's right.
Well, naturally, I went to the morgue to identify Mr. Donovan's body. Under the head bandages, I noticed that a trepanation of the skull had been performed. Why?
You see, the certificate...
The certificate enumerates all of Mr. Donovan's known injuries, among them basal skull fracture, as well as the cause of his death. Dr. Martin, who signed the certificate, is the district physician, is the only party in authority who can give any other information.
I see.
Come on, Corey.
Bye, Mr. Fulton.
Well?
Corey seems to know something. Something that Professor Muller won't let him tell.
Oh, nonsense, Jean. If W.H. did say something before he died, why would they want to keep it a secret from us?
That's one of the things I want to find out. What do you say we miss the plane? A few hours more in Phoenix might prove very interesting.
All right.
Janice, you haven't been in the lab all day.
Patrick, let's get away from here.
Just as we're starting the great experiment.
Great experiment. You don't want to be a part of that.
I didn't hesitate being a part of it last night. Why should I run out now?
You wouldn't be running out. won't let him.
Janice, what's the matter with you? We're not in the clutches of a great monster. After all, Professor Muller has everything he wants. The encephalograph, Donovan's brain. Why should he keep me from leaving?
Oh, no. Professor Muller doesn't have everything he wants.
Perhaps I didn't understand what you were trying to tell me last night.
He couldn't feel love. It's his sense of possession.
Compared to what happens on the outside of the laboratory, the experiment is a pretty dull thing. Janice, we're getting out of here.
Oh, Patrick.
Not abruptly, of course, but as soon as we can. I think I'll go in there now and start breaking the news gently.
Corey entered the laboratory with every intention of telling Professor Muller of his decision to leave. But Muller's absorbed manner caused him to hesitate. And as he waited for an opportunity to speak, his own interest in the encephalograph was again aroused by the fact that the lines on the paper were strong. The brain was alive. Curiously, Corey watched. Then his curiosity turned to fascination. That same fascination erased all thought of Janice and bored deep into his scientific mind, intriguing his undying ambition to be at least partly responsible for an important contribution to science. Came down, someone was just closing the door.
Nothing.
But I saw the door closed.
It was probably Mrs. Fame taking a midnight walk.
I'm afraid.
I tell you, it was nothing.
Oh, not because of that. I'm afraid of just being here. Did you say anything to Professor Muller about going away?
I'm not going, Janice. Don't you leave, Harvey. Don't ever leave.
I heard a noise outside, so I called Patrick.
I went out and took a look around.
Oh, is that all? I thought someone was tampering with the brain. Good night, Janice.
Were you in the house?
I was in the professor's laboratory.
Well, what did you find out?
Proof. They've stolen the brain.
I'm going to call the police.
Oh, no, dear. That would be stupid.
Stupid? Well, what do you expect me to do?
I expect you to remember what the rest of the world doesn't know yet. that the fabulously wealthy William H. Donovan left you without a dime.
But you were so sure that there was money hidden away.
I am sure, dear. That's the reason we can't take a chance in notifying the police yet. This experiment of Professor Muller's might be successful. And if it is, we'll have everything we want.
The whole thing sounds fantastic.
It is fantastic. Almost as fantastic as the life and death of William H. Donovan.
Hello.
Hello, Patrick. Supplies for the experiment?
Yes, I was lucky. Got everything we need. Hey, you even look beautiful in riding clothes.
Thank you.
Oh, we had a date to go riding, didn't we?
We did, 2 hours ago.
Sorry, Janice.
Did you get the blood plasma?
Yes, I did, and the lamp also. It's out in the wagon.
Good.
Professor Muller and Corey worked with growing intensity. And because of Corey, Janice stayed on, showing an interest, but only for Muller's benefit. Silently, she seemed to be trying to protect Corey from being entirely lost in his increasing enthusiasm. The two men measured the brain's activity with an electric bulb. When the light glowed, it indicated the brain was awake. When dark, the brain was asleep. Thus they observed from 7 to 8 hours at a time. The brain did not show any reaction. But during the remaining hours, and strangely enough, at night, it was most active.
Look. Look at the light.
Oh, for the love of Mike. The light's always brighter at night. That's what we can't figure out. Oh, I'm sorry, Janice. I'm sorry.
That's all right, Patrick.
Yes, it is strange.
You know, if we only knew something of Donovan's habits. We could do some research on the man.
Good. Call up the Excelsior Clipping Bureau. Have them send us every word that has ever been printed about William H. Donovan.
Here it is. Here's the reason. In this interview, Mr. W.H. Donovan says, "It has always been my habit to use part of the day for sleep, because I work better when the rest of the city has retired, in those still silent hours after midnight." This explains what you wanted to know, doesn't it?
That explains the light. But the greatest question still remains: find ways and means of communication with the brain.
Almost human. Seems to feel.
Almost. It does feel. It even seems to tell us something.
You'd only find a way to understand its message.
No, Patrick. Please. You've gone too far already.
Stop now? Why do you think we went into this experiment, huh?
You know, if we could figure out a way to contact the brain through, Morse code.
What makes you think Donovan knew Morse code, huh?
I don't care whether he did or not. He could be taught. A brain that could think and learn.
And even if it could understand, how could it answer us? We can't decipher these waves.
Oh, that's right. There's no way of decoding it.
What about telepathy?
Telepathy?
Why, yes, it's not impossible. We know positively that every human brain produces and discharges microwaves which travel through the medium of air until they reach other brains in a receptive state, on the same principle as radio waves sent by a transmitter are received by radio sets.
Yes, but how could we apply that theory to this?
if we could strengthen the brain, overfeed it, so to say, the electrical output would increase, which would favor telepathic transmission.
But I still say, how could we apply it?
Well, we would need a medium, someone who would be able to make his own mind an absolute blank. In that case, Donovan's thoughts might transmit themselves.
Corey had reached the stage in his work where he felt he was being driven on by something stronger than himself. Night after night, he would stay on in the laboratory, long after Muller had retired. Finally, he moved a cot into the room so that he might remain constantly near the experiment. Between fitful hours of sleep, he worked feverishly. One night, discouraged by the slowness of the increase of chemical and tissue changes, he deliberately overfed the brain with enriched blood plasma. And then he watched, hopefully, waiting. It was that very night Patrick Corey received his first message from Donovan's brain.
Good morning.
Mr. Corey?
Yes?
I'll take it. Thank you. Patrick! Patrick! Wake up!
Janice, look, I contacted the brain. Of course it was written by me, but it's the exact signature of W.H. Donovan. Don't you see the scrawl, the hard H, and a flourish on the end?
And you've written it with your left hand. But still, that isn't sufficient proof that it was Donovan's brain that influenced you telepathically. You and I happen to have read Donovan was left-handed. And you have seen his signature in facsimile in some magazine. So therefore, it could be autosuggestion or self-hypnosis.
Patrick, What Professor Muller is trying to tell you is that your imagination is running away with you.
That's what you asked him to tell me.
No, Patrick, that isn't.
Please, Janice, don't say any more. It's obvious you don't want to help me. Oh, please go away and leave me alone.
Patrick is gone. I've got to stop him.
Perhaps you received another telepathic message.
Please do something.
If I put some morphine into the bloodstream, it will stop the brain activity for quite some time.
Patrick, what happened? Darling, where were you going?
I was going to Los Angeles. Federal prison.
Federal prison? Why, you must have been dreaming.
I have to go to federal prison.
But why? What would you do there?
Janice, try to understand. It was a voice, or maybe it wasn't a voice. I don't know what it was. It was something. It was an order. I have to go.
You've got to stop this experiment.
You tell Professor Muller to take care of the brain.
Patrick!
I'm not going back with you.
Take me with you.
Janice, Professor Muller will need a new assistant more than ever.
Yes, no doubt he does. And it's about time I showed some interest in the experiment.
Mrs. Donovan will see you in the library.
Glad to see you.
How do you do, Mrs. Donovan?
Please sit down.
Thank you.
Cigarette?
No, thanks.
I suppose you've read the papers.
Yes, I have.
It's absurd, the ridiculous things they're saying about Mr. Donovan.
Mrs. Donovan, I've had something on my mind that I think you should know about.
Yes?
It's about Mr. Donovan's last words.
Then he did say something.
Yes. There were 2 words he kept repeating.
2 words?
Federal prison.
Oh. Well, that place has no significance for me. But let me call Mr. Fulton. Perhaps he has an explanation. Excuse me, please.
Therefore, I find it impossible to give you a definite answer at this moment. I'm going east today.
I don't know how long he's staying, but I'll try to find out. Yes, I'll take care of it. Goodbye, Jean.
On my return, I'll discuss your letter at the next meeting of the Board of Directors.
Oh, I apologize, Mrs. Donovan. When I saw the dictograph, it was a temptation to hear your husband's voice again.
I can understand, Mr. Corey. I spoke to Mr. Fulton.
Yes?
He has no explanation to offer.
Well, I'm sorry I bothered you, Mrs. Donovan. Goodbye.
Oh, Mr. Corey.
Yes?
Are you going to be in town for a while?
Just a couple of days.
Why not have dinner with Mr. Fulton and me tomorrow evening? We'll pick you up at your hotel. Shall we say at 7:30?
Thank you. I'm at the Southern Villa. Bye.
Goodbye.
Yes?
Ready with your call to Phoenix, Mr. Corey. Just a moment, please.
Thank you.
Hello?
Hello, Janice.
This is Mrs. Vane.
Oh, Mrs. Payne, this is Mr. Corey. May I speak to Miss Farrell, please?
I'll call her.
Yes?
Mr. Corey's on the phone.
Patrick,
Hello, darling.
I was just writing you a letter. I didn't know where to send it, but...
I'm coming home tomorrow.
Oh, that's wonderful. Did everything come out all right?
I'll tell you all about it when I see you. I should be there about noon.
Don't leave now, in the middle of the night. Please.
I thought you wanted me to come home.
Oh, yes. Yes, I do. You know that. But you must be careful.
I will, darling. Goodbye.
Good night.
Alberta, I was just talking to Los Angeles. I was cut off.
Hello?
I've just heard your plans. It seems you're very willing to sacrifice everything we've been working for by coming home now.
Well, I did have a chance to hear Donovan's voice over the dictograph, and it was the same voice I heard last night, and that was all. I haven't been able to contact the brain since.
No wonder. I've administered some morphine to the brain after you left. Naturally, it was in no condition to contact you. In fact, it is still sleeping soundly.
Well, in that case, I hadn't better hurry home.
It would be only fair of you to stay at least another 24 hours to give the brain a chance to contact you again.
Janice is expecting me. I better let her know.
Don't worry, I'll explain everything to Janice. And call me if you have any news. All right, Corey. Good luck. And good night.
Trust. Mercy.
Ace of spades. Winged of 16.
One, 2, 5, 3, 1. That's not a signature.
It is. Make it $1,000 bills.
One moment, please. The manager wants to see you, please.
All right.
My name is Phipps.
I'm Patrick Corey.
This is Mr. Manning. Would you mind answering a few questions, Mr. Corey?
Is there anything wrong with that check?
No. We've compared this number with the original number, which stands for the signature. It's correct. Also, the ace of spades in the corner.
And you, Mr. Corey, opened this account?
It seems so.
Could I see your identification, please?
This account has puzzled the bank for years. 5 years ago, we received a large sum of money with the order to open an account. This is the first check that's been drawn against it.
Well, Mr. Phipps, this is Patrick Corey.
Give me the money. I'm in a hurry.
You want it in $1,000 bills?
In $1,000 bills.
All the $50,000?
All of it.
The same strange impulse that forced him to go to the bank, sign a check with a peculiar signature, take money that wasn't his, now held Corey captive as he walked along. What should he do with the money? He tried to blot out his own thoughts so that the brain could prompt him. And then, quite suddenly, it did. Instead of crossing the street, Corey found himself turning in another direction.
Mr. Corey, I didn't expect the pleasure of your company until this evening.
I'm sorry I haven't time for social obligations. I came here strictly on business.
Sit down, won't you? What can I do for you?
I understand you're a very shrewd man, Mr. Fulton.
A lawyer has to be.
I want you to get a man out of federal prison.
That sort of thing isn't so easy.
I know. This'll help.
I don't operate the way you seem to think, Mr. Corey.
Then I'll have to get another lawyer.
Very well. But don't you want to tell me first whose case it is you wish me to handle? Collins. That man's been convicted of murder and sentenced to death. It's hopeless.
It isn't hopeless. Money's no object.
Well, I must know more about this. What's your interest in the case?
Strictly personal. All you have to do is follow my instructions.
Well, I can't make a decision now. You'll have to give me time to think it over.
All right, tomorrow morning. I want to see Collins. Can you arrange it?
I'll try.
I said arrange it.
Report to me again tomorrow.
Have Roger Collins brought to my office. It's so surprising that an attorney like Eugene Fulton would take over such a hopeless case.
Did he say that he was?
No,
Then why do you say that?
The arrangements for your visit were made through his office.
You have no right to assume that he's taking over the Collins case.
Why, Roger, this is Mr. Corey.
Hello, Roger.
I don't know you.
You don't? No, of course you don't.
And I don't want to see any more psychiatrists or pathologists or whatever you call yourselves. I don't want to see any more of you.
But I want to help you, Roger.
Sure. That's what they all say. My lawyer tells him to say that. He's trying to prove I'm insane now.
But you're not. You're not guilty either.
You believe me. Somehow I can tell you, you do believe me.
I've always known you were innocent.
Then why didn't you help me before? Why didn't you stop them from sending me here?
It's not too late, Roger. Is there anything you can tell me that you didn't tell them at the trial?
No. Why should there be? I've never lied. I was always honest. Can't anyone ever understand that? I didn't murder him. I never liked him, but I didn't murder him.
Who didn't you like, Roger?
Why, my stepfather, of course. Who do you... Oh, so that's it. You're a psychiatrist after all.
No.
You're trying to trip me up, too, with those misleading questions.
No!
Yes, you are. You're trying to make me out insane. It's that lawyer again. He doesn't think I should hang, but he wouldn't hesitate to put me into an asylum. Well, tell him I won't go. I don't want to go. I'd rather be dead. And for the kind of tricks you pull, I wish you were dead, too.
His stepfather.
What did you say, Mr. Corey?
I was just trying to remember something. Thank you, Warden.
No, not at all. You see, it's a hopeless case.
His mission had failed. But from this moment on, Donovan's brain took possession of him without respite. As Corey walked along, the voice came to him, urging, demanding, echoing back from the stony walls of the prison corridor.
I'm so glad I found you. You mustn't come back to the castle now. Wait for me.
Don't annoy me with your stupid ideas. Let me talk to Muller.
I don't want you to talk to him. Anyway, he's locked himself in the laboratory. But I know he keeps filling the brain, giving it more and more intelligence, so that... Patrick!
What are you doing?
I turned it off. The brain is dead. Patrick is free. Patrick is free.
So you thought you could stop the brain, kill it, by merely turning off the current, didn't you? The idea wasn't bad, although your intent was malicious. But look. Look. What you unintentionally made me discover. Just look at the bulb. It's glowing. The brain is alive. Awake and working, independent of electric current, self-sufficient.
You mean nothing can stop it?
Nothing but the physical destruction of its very substance.
Physical destruction. Please let me. I want Patrick to be free.
I don't. Why should I?
You monster!
They're in the car. Hurry.
You mean you gave me the key too?
Yes, get out of here. Hurry.
Why are you so determined to establish Collins' innocence?
I'm not paying you to ask questions. What are you going to do about this case?
Well, I've been doing some research. I found several witnesses that might prove difficult. One in particular. I believe they called her the star witness at the trial.
Who was it?
Oh, it was just a child, 13 or 14 years old. She lives next door to the house where the murder occurred. But she came forth with some very damaging testimony against Collins.
Give her parents some money and tell them to take her over the state line.
But you can't bribe people to do that. You can't pervert justice. You just can't.
I can. I can buy anything. I don't want the girl found until Collins is freed.
Mr. Corey, what is Roger Collins to you?
I told you I wasn't paying you to ask questions. That's my privilege. Mr. Fulton, what did you say the name of the star witness was?
Oh, yes, Mr. Corey. I'll tell you the whole story. The morning Collins killed poor Mr. Howard,
Don't say killed, Mary Lou.
But he did, Grandmother. He came out of the house, looked around, lit a cigarette, sneaked away. He thought no one saw him. But I did. I see everything.
How come?
When I'm grown up, I'm going to be a detective. You know, they're hiring girls now.
Imagine, Mr. Corey, the crazy ideas the young folks get these days. When I was young, we thought of other things.
Why not? She might make a very clever detective.
Well, there's one thing I must say for Mary Lou. She has an amazing memory. Why, only just yesterday, she remembered something else.
What was it?
Well, after he stood there and lit his cigarette, he picked a flower and stuck it in his buttonhole.
Why didn't you tell that to the prosecuting attorney?
Well, I was just telling you, she only just remembered it yesterday.
That's what the girl told me. And that makes her our star witness. I ask you, would a murderer after committing such a crime stop and pick a flower for his buttonhole?
In a premeditated murder, it has been done.
Not Collins. He's not the type.
How can anyone tell what's going on inside a man's brain?
Are you his lawyer or prosecuting attorney? It's a new clue and a sound one. Anyway, it gives us a chance to reopen the trial.
Now, look, Corey. If this could be used as evidence against Collins, it might mean something. But as evidence for him, believe me, it means very little.
I just gave you another $5,000, and I'm not paying you for nothing. I want action.
I'm working on it. But I must use my own methods. Now, tonight, Mr. Grimes will call on you. He can be trusted. Follow his advice.
Come in. did you come here? What do you want?
How can you say that when you need me so much?
I don't need you. I don't need anybody.
How can I help you? What can I do?
You can't do anything. Get out!
I have tried to destroy the brain, but Professor Muller...
Yes?
Mr. Grimes wants to see you.
Send him up.
Who is it?
Stop asking so many questions. Go on in there. Go on! Come in.
Corey?
Yes, I'm Patrick Corey.
Well. Mr. Corey, let's get down to business. Now, let's see what we have here. Yes. Murder, first degree, circumstantial evidence, one-star witness. Well.
That's nothing new.
Mr. Corey, I'm a man of few words. You want him free, I'm the man to do it. You want quick action, you'll get it from me.
What do you suggest?
Reopening of the trial. Bribe the witnesses, helping the jurors make up their minds. Altogether, $100,000. 50 on deposit and 50 on acquittal.
I'll have to talk to Fulton first.
It can only be done through me. Mr. Fulton is a lawyer and a public figure. He gives the anesthetic, I pull the teeth.
100,000 is okay on delivery, but not 1 cent down.
Well, it's been nice knowing you, Mr. Corey. I can understand your feelings. Money is a hard thing to part from. You can get a funeral for Collins as low as $65 at Kelly Brothers on Santa Vista. Good day.
Wait a minute.
Oh, no hurry. I'll give you time to make up your mind. You talk to Fulton tomorrow.
It isn't you who's doing all these terrible things. It can't be you. Patrick, can't you see you're beginning to think like Donovan? It's just like being hypnotized. Wake up. Please wake up.
So you've been listening, huh? That's why you came here, to interfere, wasn't it?
I came here to help you. And that's what I'm going to do. Somehow.
I forgot my pencil. Bye.
Hello?
Mrs. Fame, I must talk to Professor Muller.
He won't come to the phone. He won't talk to anyone.
But it's been impossible for me to even reason with Mr. Corey. I've thought of going to the police, but I'm afraid of what might happen. Oh, please, Mrs. Fame, please. I've got to make Professor Muller understand.
It's too late now, Miss Farrell. He won't even see me. He keeps the door locked. I think the brain is beginning to take possession of Professor Muller, too.
Your sudden interest in Miss Farrell's welfare is really most touching, Mrs. Fame. But you wouldn't tell her the real reason for your interest, would you? You wouldn't tell her that you've been jealous of her ever since the first day she arrived here? And that you've tried to get rid of her ever since until you finally succeeded? You old, malicious, jealous fool, you!
perfect timing, darling.
Not on your part. I had these ready 15 minutes ago.
Well, Grimes was a little late. However, everything is coming along splendidly.
He'll pay?
Oh, yes, and he'll pay more.
Are you really reopening the trial?
Certainly.
But what if Collins can prove his innocence?
It'll never come to that. A young lady has arrived.
A young lady?
Grimes seems to think it's Corey's fiancée.
Will she complicate matters?
Oh, no. On the contrary.
Strange. The man in the possession of Donovan's brain doesn't know that the boy about to die is Donovan's own son.
I want results. I paid Grimes all the money he wants. Now I want action.
I can't understand how a man with your background can lose his balance so easily. Have you seen the morning papers?
No.
Well, look at that.
It's all right for a beginning.
However, there's a hitch.
Yeah, new hitch, new money.
I'm not talking about money. I'm having trouble with one of the witnesses.
Which one?
The star witness.
Mary Lou?
Exactly.
But she's the one that's going to introduce the new evidence.
Oh, sure, but not evidence for Collins. You see, Corey, I told you that evidence can work both ways. Now, you thought the incident of the flower would establish Collins' innocence. As a matter of fact, it clearly works against him.
Why?
It was Collins' habit to wear a flower in his lapel every day. Without it, he would have been conspicuous. So you can understand why he picked one that particular day. Well, the child is no help at all.
What about the other witnesses?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They're all right. The 6th is the child.
That was Mr. Corey.
Yes, I know.
But you said you were waiting to see him.
I've changed my mind. I want to see Mr. Fulton. Immediately.
What is your name, please?
Janice Farrell.
Miss Janice Farrell to see Mr. Fulton.
Send her in.
Yes, Mr. Fulton. Go right in, Miss Farrell.
Thank you.
We've met before, Miss Farrell.
Oh, so you're Mr. Fulton.
No, I'm Mr. Grimes.
But,
Please, sit down. Miss Farrell, I'm talking for Mr. Fulton, and for a good reason. Mr. Fulton's reputation as a lawyer is beyond reproach. So when things get slightly out of balance, he prefers me to take over.
I've really no idea of Mr. Corey's dealings with Mr. Fulton. It's just that
I thought so. Told Mr. Fulton so, too. You don't know anything, but we know about everything.
And what is everything, Mr. Grimes? What has Mr. Corey done?
What has he done? First, he's guilty of stealing a man's brain. Laudable for science, but punishable by law. Second, trying to get a murderer acquitted by influencing witnesses. Possible sentence, 5 years. Third, using Mr. Donovan's funds by falsifying his signature. Another 5 years.
But he's innocent.
That's the point. He's acting under Donovan's influence. Miss Farrell, I know you love Mr. Corey, and you want to save him. All we want is money. Now, here's a blank check. We would like to get Mr. Donovan's secret signature, the one Mr. Corey has used quite frequently the past few days. If we get the money, all of it, well, you can take Mr. Corey home, and everything will be forgotten.
Patrick can't do that. He wouldn't do it. He isn't a criminal.
That's what you think, but I know differently. You go now, and don't let him out of your sight for a moment. Otherwise, you'll not only have a criminal as a sweetheart, but also a murderer.
I don't believe it. I don't believe a word you've said.
You're lying. You were afraid of it all the time, and that's why you came here.
You just said he'd murder. Patrick wouldn't.
No, Patrick wouldn't, but Donovan would.
Donovan?
A man who can murder once won't hesitate to do it again.
I want you to come with me. I said come with me.
Where to? Where are we going?
I want you to meet someone. Just in time.
I don't see anyone.
You will. Wait.
Who?
Harry Lou. There she is now.
Bye, kids. Bye, King. See you tomorrow. Bye. Bye.
The smart little girl that observes everything. The bright little girl that wants to be a detective when she grows up. The clever little girl that... That's the last time you'll ever get in my way. You're trying to hang him too, and he's innocent.
Patrick, don't you remember who you are?
You're conspiring with Fulton. Fulton's conspiring with Grimes. You're all in my way. You're all my enemies.
We're not your enemies. You saw the world in the wrong focus. You believed people were against you. It was not true. Believe me. It was just an obsession, Patrick.
I'm not Patrick.
Janice.
Patrick, you're free.
I'm not free. Take me back to the castle.
You see, Fulton always knew that Collins was innocent, and so did Mrs. Donovan. They didn't want another heir because in the event they could use Donovan's secret account.
Another heir?
Yes, you see, Collins was Donovan's son by a former marriage he didn't tell anybody about. Well, Howard knew because Howard acted as Collins' foster father.
And who is Howard?
The murdered man. He was Donovan's secretary. He knew all about his detours to power. So it must have been Donovan who actually committed the murder.
But why did Donovan kill Howard?
Because he wrote the life story of Donovan, and Donovan didn't want it published. Well, he made him an offer, and Howard turned it down.
Patrick, here we are.
All right, darling.
He's asleep.
What about the brain?
Professor Muller's put the brain to sleep.
Not Professor Muller. I used all the morphine he had.
At what time?
About 2 o'clock this afternoon.
That was...
But Patrick, if the brain is asleep, that means...
Means it's time to put an end to it.
No, Mr. Curry. Not yet. Not when we're so close to success.
I don't want any more. I've had enough.
It isn't a question of what you want. Your little experience in Los Angeles was just the beginning of our experiment.
It's your experiment. You're the one who...
Please, please, I want to be free. I want to be free to live my own life.
Yes, free to be with Janice.
Yes, yes.
No!
And so, the four who had shared a most amazing adventure finally found its conclusion. For Professor Muller, such a death was well deserved. He had tried to distort an experiment of science into a diabolical plot to further his own personal gains. Following a brief trial, Mrs. Fane was acquitted, but Patrick Corey, although he helped to free Roger Collins, was obliged to serve a short term in prison for his part in the experiment. However, Janice was waiting. So after all, there was a happy ending to his experience.